Hi, I'm John Kursky, and in this video I'm going to show you that if you see this potential issue in Power Query Lint Pro, how to deal with null values when unpivoting data. Alright, so before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date with all the rules and new features we'll be rolling out over the next couple of months. And with that, let's take a look at unpivoting data and dealing with nulls. So up on the screen here, I've got a sample set of sales data that has a set of dates, some products, and let's say for each product, its own column and the sales value for the day. And in some cases, we'll have null values. And then maybe the website or the office was closed, so there was no sales for that day. Now, if I wanted to unpivot this, which is a very common scenario, what I would be doing is, let's take this as an example, is I would unpivot that data. And if I click back here, if you remember, we've got October 22nd, we've got nulls across the board. When I unpivoted that data and I scroll down, there's a gap here. Now, if I'm using Power Query Lint Pro and I copy this and I'm using this linter to make sure I don't have any issues, you'll notice that this one shows up. Now the problem that we run into when we unpivot data in Power Query is that null values get removed. Now, if you've been working with Unpivot for a while, you know that that's something you need to account for, but this is an issue I see that even myself, you'll make that mistake and the linter will just pick up on that. What you need to do is make sure you put in some sort of placeholder or replacement of null values prior to doing the linting. Or I'm sorry, prior to doing the unpivoting of the table. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I go into the prior step before I unpivot the columns, what we'll do is click on those columns and I want to replace the values. And I'm going to replace null. I'm going to put this as a placeholder for right now and put it as 0. And you'll see now the null value is replaced with a 0. And so now if I unpivot that data and I go down to that one day that was missing, you'll see now those rows exist. And if you're using, for numerics, it's pretty easy to switch the nulls to 0. I would say if you're having to deal with text-based, what I like to do is, if I go back to Power Query Lint Pro, is I'll use some sort of placeholder that I know won't exist in any cell values. And then once, after the unpivot, I can replace that value with some sort of things like not applicable or some sort of value that I can use to then hook up to my dimensions when I'm building out my star schema. All right, and with that, I hope you learned something today. Unpivoting is a wonderful tool to especially working with spreadsheets so that we can get our data into a nice star schema. But what I showed you is that if you have null values, you need to be careful and how to avoid that by just making sure you replace those with something other than null prior to the unpivot. So thank you for your time today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel.